Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Today's guest is Emanuel Medeiros, the CEO of SIGA, Sports Integrity Global Alliance. Mr. Medeiros has over 30 years of experience from the sports management industry, and he has, in addition to his current role, also co-founded the Association of European Professional Football Leagues, where he was also the CEO. He has been Secretary General at the Portuguese Football League, been an ambassador for sports ethics by the Portuguese Government, and much more. In this episode, we talk about SIGA and their mission, their recently launched independent rating and verification system SERVS, their future plans, and in the end, he gives a very much needed motivational boost for young people in the sports industry. I hope you will enjoy this conversation as much as I did. For more information about SIGA, check out their website. The link is in the description below. In other news, this week we are sponsored by InSport Education and their new online course, Governance of Women's Sport, Developing Structures that are Fit for Purpose. When it comes to effective sports governance structures, historically many sports have copied the structures for men's sport and applied them to women's sport. But this doesn't account for the particular challenges and opportunities for women's sport, the nuances, specificity required for the unique platform of women's sport. Now you have the opportunity to learn about governance of women's sport, and with the code Sports Management Podcast 10, you will get 10% off this and all other courses offered by InSport Education. Click the link in the description below and sign up today. Emanuel Medeiros, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you, Marcus. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's very nice to talk to you. And as the listeners already know, I joined very proudly SIGA as a media partner a while back. And it's a great pleasure to talk to you today since you are the global CEO of SIGA. So first of all, if you can talk a little bit about SIGA and what you do.
Thank you very much. That's a very pertinent question. And it's never enough to explain who we are, what we do, and why we do it. We are the world's largest independent, neutral, global, and multi-stakeholder coalition. We bring all the sides of the industry together: sport, governments, international organizations, global business, civil society, in the pursuit of one fundamental mission. That mission is to ensure that sport is governed properly, with integrity, with transparency, with accountability, and therefore can justify the passion of the fans, the trust and the confidence and the expectations of those who invest. In addition to their passion, they invest also their resources, their expectations. So the sponsors, the broadcasters, the governments, all of us. And we were formed in a period where sport was in serious reputational crisis. Sports name was dragged through the mud during what was known then by the FIFA Gate, which was a tsunami that had its epicenter in football, but also touched other sports and other sports organizations. And this was a period of chaos, and we saw this huge anathema grow and hit the whole sporting industry. Anyone associated with sport was looked with suspicion, was finger pointed at. And to restore the trust, to restore that confidence, to restore that credibility, obviously we could not be waiting for sports organizations to wake up from their lethargic sleep that they have been immersed through decades. All the governments, always bystanders and with a very passive attitude, we had to do something by ourselves. So obviously, I had just finished a long career as CEO of all the European leagues, including the Swedish League, who was one of the founding members of the European League Association, and also the World League Association, whose efforts I led, also as CEO. With other roles within the industry. And I obviously mobilized my experience, all the knowledge I could have in order to bring others, like-minded organizations and individuals, to form a united front so that we could not just express wishful thinking, but put in place solutions that would ensure that sport could reform itself, that sport could be an active agent of its own reform process rather than leaving that to courts or to law enforcement. So that was an assumption of spontaneous leadership, and it was obviously anchored on solid basis. More than just proclaiming that sport needed to live up to its responsibilities, it was important to show the way. And that could only be done through a set of universal standards, universally recognized standards that would bring the solutions and the roadmap for sports organizations to walk the talk. And we started by gathering an elite thought leadership, designing universal standards on good governance, on financial integrity, on sports betting integrity, and finally on youth development and protection in sport. We did this. It's published. It's being adopted by several organizations now, but that was not enough. We needed to provide this accountability, the independent scrutiny, not the talk that we hear so often, sports bragging and using PR to demonstrate that they are fit for purpose and they are the best in the world. No, it's not enough. In a period of huge skepticism, a period of huge suspicions, there needed to be more. And that led us to design the SIGA independent rating and verification system, because fans, sponsors, broadcasters, governments, the whole community needed to see to believe. See to believe. And that led us to the SIGA rating system, which is also in operation. We then conducted an independent tender to find a partner who could operate independently this rating system, and that decision, after a year of long work, fell on the British Standard Institution, which everyone knows is the best in class. So that is part of our strategy. That is part of our vision. To make this vision into achievement and bring long and meaningful change, we needed to have this solid basis. We do more than that. We also provide training, education, and capacity building. And we are spearheading a global movement in which everyone has its own legitimate role to play, including the media, right at the forefront, so that we can usher sport into this new era through meaningful cultural change. And cultural change is exactly the key. That's what we do.
Wow, that's extensive and it's really impressive. And I want to elaborate a little bit on what you said with the verification, independent rating and verification system, the SERVs.
Mm-hmm.
The first organization to be tried under this was the Rugby Union, right?
Yes, it was. The European Rugby League.
Yes.
Which involves 54 countries across Europe. So it's continental.
Yeah, so how was this the first SERVs and what has been the feedback afterwards?
Well, the feedback has been amazing. The feedback has been amazing from European Rugby League, from its membership base, from its commercial partners. It has been really strong and positive feedback because they can see the difference. They can see the leadership in that organization. They can see the impetus in enhancing the standards upon which they govern themselves and operate. And obviously, it shows something unique and fundamental, which is they want to show to their sponsors, their broadcasters, their commercial partners, their fans that they care about. They care about, not with propaganda, not with bullshit, but with real, meaningful action. And these are the reforms that the European Rugby League is implementing and has started implementing even throughout the SERVs audit phase, because they wanted to be at the top and they knew what excellence means. So we're very proud of our cooperation with the European Rugby League. That has also provided us some important information It was the first, and the first is always a test. We have extracted important lessons and confirmed that this independent rating system is ready to go. And as a sign of that, we will be having a public announcement regarding the next sports organization. It will be an international federation. You also know that when I signed a cooperation agreement with the president of UEFA, the adoption of our universal standards and the independent rating system was within that list. It's in part of our cooperation agreement. And the purpose is obviously to encourage other organizations to go through the same process. And there are, fortunately, many organizations that want to have that leading role and want to be at the forefront.
That's great to hear that more organizations want to show the good work that they're doing.
And we wouldn't have succeeded if it was not the overwhelming support of so many people from so many sectors, from anonymous people that reach out to us through social media or direct email or other means, saying this is the right way to go. How can I be involved? How can I participate? How can I volunteer? To the media, the fact that we have this global media partnership with over 30 media organizations is tremendous. It's not just a huge responsibility for us, which it is, but it is also a sign that new times are coming and that this time is the right one to push these measures forward. So I would like to pay my respects to the media. They are essential not just because they inform, they are essential because they trailblaze, they open minds, they instigate this long overdue and much needed culture change. And have them with us is a big medal for us.
Let's say now that there is an organization or a federation that they feel like they don't really live up to the service rating as of right now, but they want to improve, they want to do better.
Sure.
Is SIGA offering some support, some help to achieve a good rating?
Our objective is that sports organizations can score the highest. We do not exist to name and shame. Our existence is towards a goal. And that goal is name and fame. So we want organizations to excel themselves. We want them to assume the leadership that there is within them and go forward. Go forward is exactly what SIGA means in Portuguese, by the way.
Okay.
If you know.
I didn't know that.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's like that, which is pretty much my spirit. But we offer training, education, and capacity building to sports organizations because we understand that there are many sports organizations who really want to adopt the standards, who really want to enhance their own governance, but they don't know how. So we have developed this other component, which we will soon publicly announce in all scale. It's going to be called SIGA Solutions. So this is first-hand announcement, so that we provide support to all these sports organizations. And then when they are audited, they are in good shape for that rating. But I would not see any barrier, any reason why a sport organization would not want to go through this independent rating system. Because, in a period of devastating crisis as the one that we are facing, resources are limited and investments are very carefully planned and decided. There is no sponsor, no broadcaster that can afford not to prioritize integrity in sport. No one can. And if they do the opposite, then they are doing a fatal mistake because the industry will recognize them as greedy rather than focusing on what is essential, and that is the integrity. What keeps a CEO awake at night of a big sponsor is reputational damage. Because take, for example, one of the largest global sponsors, Qatar Airways. Their option is not just to maximize their exposure. Their responsibility is also to invest in integrity in sport. And they need to do it so that the industry is clean from all these threats that we see. It is their responsibility, and that cannot be declined. If they decline that, they would be doing a fatal mistake and sending the wrong message to the public with consequences, of course. And everyone, being an adult, has to take his or her own consequences. But what I'm saying is, this is the right moment for cultural change. And cultural change cannot happen just by wishful thinking. It has to be a result of clear action.
Definitely. Before we move into the second segment, this episode is sponsored by InSport Education, and they have just launched a new course on the governance of women's sport. And I know that Katie Simmons from SIGA has spoken for them as well. And SIGA has also the Women on Wednesdays.
We do.
So if you want to talk a little bit about the women initiative from SIGA.
Yes. Well, as you know, good governance in sport is one of our key pillars. And there cannot be good governance in sport without equal opportunities, regardless of gender, race, social background, etc. So we mean business about that. We are very clear and feel very strong about that. But it's not just about, drawing a shopping list and waiting for things to happen. We need to be agents of change. We need to spur this change. And when in 2018, I remember I was on a flight between Lisbon and Geneva, and I was saying, we need to do something about this. Otherwise, it won't happen. Only by waving a flag, we won't go anywhere. So we started by inviting 20 female leaders in the industry for a high-level event and asked them to share their story, how they had succeeded, the hurdles that they had to overcome, the obstacles. And through this storytelling, inspire other female leaders, other aspiring female leaders also to understand that if they want, they can. And we were the conduit. We provided the platform. We provided the way in. So we created this mentorship program and asked those women, those leaders or female leaders to also dedicate part of their time to mentor other aspiring leaders. We are already on our fourth edition. The latest one was the mentorship program for aspiring female leaders in sport was launched just on the 8th of December. The results have been overwhelming. And we encourage young female leaders in sport to come forward and express their interest and join this initiative. We want to have, through this, a global movement, because we cannot be happy with the reality. We cannot be happy with the reality. Do you know how many women sit on the executive committee of the international federations? I will tell you, because I have conducted that research myself. In 2019, it was 18.3%. So for every 100 members, 18.3% were women. All international federations. You have international federations that have one, others that have none. So it's a male-dominated environment.
Yeah.
Right? But that was 2019. The most recent survey, which was done in March 2021, this year, revealed that we're not moving forward, we are moving backwards. So from 18.3%, we moved to 17.8%.
Okay.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Sport needs to be a democratic field of opportunities for everyone. For everyone. Women should not be prevented from having access to decision-making positions. It is their legitimate right. And sport, I'm sorry to say, I'm a man of sport, but sport cannot be proud of itself until this situation is not changed. And it must be changed for good. So everything that we have done has been done also to encourage change, spur change, and give equal opportunities for everyone. But it's not just about female leadership. And you mentioned Katie, and I want to take this opportunity really to highlight the key role that she is having in this front, trailblazing, inspiring so many female leaders who look up to her and are getting involved in this program. And it's not just a show of her capacity to move this forward, but also the results have been absolutely outstanding. And we will have on the 8th and 9th of March in New York City, a global summit. It will be hybrid. And we want to encourage everyone who's listening to us, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of social background, regardless of political preferences, to please join. Join your voice to ours and give it volume and make it even more relevant so that we can spur sport to this next phase, a phrase that we can all be proud of.
Yeah, that sounds really great. And obviously that's the International Women's Day also in the beginning of March there.
Yes, but again, our struggle is we don't want to confine this to one international day. We don't want to confine this to one day a year. This has to be a permanent priority. And this is why we have launched all these projects to ensure continuity and to measure results. And you cannot imagine the number of young women who are now in the industry, who have found a job, who have found a career in sport because of the SIGA mentorship program. And that is something I'm really proud of, really proud of.
You should be. That's incredible. If we move on and talk a little bit about your career in sports, you mentioned before the Association of European Professional Football Leagues, where you were co-founder and CEO, and obviously now you are CEO of SIGA. But can you talk a little bit about how you started off and your journey in sports up until today?
Well, I think I was always premature on many things as far as career is concerned and awakened for the sporting industry. I'm a lawyer by trade. I played sports, I played football, I played volleyball, I played other sports. But then when I went to law school, I had to make an option. And I decided to prioritize the university, but always keeping an eye on what was happening within sport. I became executive in football in 1993. I was invited to be the legal director of Portuguese Premier League club. I exerted that role for 7 years. In addition to other professional activities I was having, that gave me a huge experience, from the inside, from the guts of the beast, on how things are regulated, how they are governed, from the transfer market to any topic you can imagine. And then 7 years later, I was general manager of the Professional Football League in Portugal. And I had a wide range of responsibilities, including international representation. I represented the Portuguese League in FIFA and UEFA and other European leagues. And we started in 1997, 1998 to have an embryonic grouping of leagues. We used to get together, not on a regular basis, but at least 2-3 times a year to discuss matters of common concern. Then there was this, the Bosman case, as you will recall, which was revolutionary in the football industry. And obviously, I was at the forefront of that battle. So we had to intensify our efforts, our actions, and organize ourselves in a different way. That led to the creation of the Association of European Professional Football Leagues as a legal entity. Then I was invited to lead the organization, and I accepted on one condition. The condition was that I was elected. Because all my life I was elected. I believe election is the right method because legitimacy is very important for me. So from 12 leagues in 2005, we grew to over 30 when I left in 2014. And in the meantime, I had also set up the World League Association with all the leagues in the world. And we represented a general turnover of $35 billion a year, the largest employer organization in the field of sport, and a huge powerhouse. But, life is made of cycles, and I considered my cycle had finished. I needed to move on. And that led me to exert my passion, which is reform. Knowing the industry, knowing its many amazing benefits and external impact from social development to human development to commercial impact, etc., technology, everything. But knowing also its dark side, I felt it was my duty to give a step forward and try also to contribute to the necessary and long overdue reforms. And this is what I'm doing. In the meantime, experiences as I had been exerting in the World Economic Forum or the Court of Arbitration for Sport or many other international organizations, I had to put on ice, because now my full priority is SIGA, is integrity in sport. And working with all you, this growing community, is definitely a great incentive to continue to do what I try to do in the best possible way.
That's great, and I hope you continue to.
This is a very short version.
Yes, of course, of course. Your career is so, impressive in what you have done and what you have said also, like you are humble and you want to be elected and you want to do things right, and it feels like you are really the right man for leading SIGA forward. So on that point, what are the future plans for SIGA?
Well, the future plans will be determined by the upcoming elections that will happen in January. As you know, I am extremely proud of being the founding father of SIGA and having dedicated the last 6 years of my life to building the foundations of SIGA from vision, because SIGA is my brainchild, but from vision to achievement, to the reality that SIGA is today. We are consolidated, strong, influential, respected organization, and kudos to everyone who has been working towards this goal. But my first term is now reaching its end, and out of respect and recognition for how democracy works, we need to give the word back to the members, to the council, to our internal organs, so that they can decide who they want to continue in this role or other candidate, as it is normally in elections. I have never been handcuffed to any role or any obligation apart from my own conscience. And as long as I feel that I can be of use, that I can add value and serve this great purpose, then I will not be shy. But obviously, that decision depends to the SIGA internal organs and to the members, because that's how democracy works.
Definitely. That's how it should be everywhere, I think. But unfortunately, that's not the case. But that's what we and SIGA are working towards.
Yeah. But listening to your words, it came to my mind, when I decided to leave football, meaning put an end to my role as CEO of European leagues and the World League Association also, and many other positions I had in the international sphere, people were surprised. They thought I was joking. I was not joking. I was not joking for many reasons. One was my father was severely ill in a hospital bed, and I wanted to spend time with him and my family. After so many years, nearly 2 decades, globe-trotting, I felt that urge. But secondly, life is made of cycles. Life is made of cycles. I think it's sad and it's negative when someone perpetuates themselves at the helm of organizations. We need to leave to let democracy breathe. And democracy breathes through this process of renewal. And election is the most fundamental of those principles. So I believe in that. Having said this, obviously, I feel immensely proud of the work that we have jointly done and the achievements that we have jointly made. And I feel very, very positive and confident about the future of SIGA, because we are fighting the good fight for the right causes in the right moment, but because we have a great membership base and great prospects in terms of growth. And that is exactly what is needed to succeed.
That's great. So many great things throughout your career, great initiatives. You have had so many different roles. Have there been any bumps on the road in your career, any difficulties? And if so, how have you overcome them and moved forward?
Yes, this has not been an easy ride. I became, after three decades, I would say, an expert in creating projects from scratch, in transforming visions into realities, in delivering those realities. But nothing happens, just by simply snapping your fingers. It's heavy lifting. Obviously, you need to have a cause that is right, that serves a purpose, that is meaningful, that makes the difference. But you also need to galvanize, support, champions, resources, and ensure that you do it in a way that is with integrity, with the utmost integrity, that you lead by example. And as you know, there is a huge territorial feeling in the world of sport. The predominant rule is working in silos. Territorial feelings are very, very strong. Anything new that shows up is seen with skepticism and not very much welcome. For many reasons. And I could give you tons of examples. I could dissect every organization if needed. And this is why sport is not winning the war against crime and against all these threats. It's because the industry that should work as a united front, engaging all stakeholders, is fragmented, working in silos. Now, I believe that the future of sport begins with a clear assumption of responsibilities, a clear notion of the reality. And that implies identifying what our weaknesses and vulnerabilities are. An industry whose key stakeholders don't work together as a united front is a weak industry, because we are only as strong as our weakest link. Imagine this is a football team. Can you win if all the players are not working as an orchestra? Can you cross the finish line if everyone is not rowing to the same side? No, you cannot. Same principle applies here. Same principle applies here. And I understand that some do not want integrity. I understand that some do not want to be in the spotlight. They have their reasons. And every time you, the media, showcase those reasons, we understand. But the only way to move forward is by taking action, not being defensive, but being offensive, taking action, advancing, doing what is right. So yes, there has been hurdles. But what defines me and what defines SIGA are not those hurdles, are not the adversities, is our strength and our commitment to overcome them. So the more hurdles we find on our way, and the more voices we hear saying exactly the wrong thing, and the more defensive attitudes we find, the stronger, the most committed, the most persevere we will be. Because there is no way back on our option. It's only forward. That's what SIGA means, forward.
Of course, there are so many things to learn about SIGA, and I encourage all the listeners to head over to your website, siga-sport.com. The link is in the description as well to learn more. There are so much great content on your social platforms. But to wrap up the interview here, is there something that I haven't asked you that you feel is important to mention?
As I mentioned, I'm a lawyer by trade, so I can speak. And I'm a lawyer by trade since I was 6 years old, as I used to say, as a joke. So I could speak volumes about a lot. But I would like to finish by encouraging young people, like yourself, young entrepreneurs, young visionaries, not to stop in the face of an obstacle, of a door that is shut, of an adversity. Go ahead, go forward. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. If it's not you, who? If it's not now, when? You have a huge power. You live in a world where possibilities are endless, but also in a very troubled world. The world that we are living is dying. And I'm sorry for being dramatic, but that is the reality. And unless you are ready to take action, nothing will happen. So, whether it is in the field of sport integrity, whether it is in the field of climate change and sustainability, whatever, use that power to change your environment. We have seen great examples of leadership and great lessons learned from young people. It depends also on you. And I know how brave one has to be a journalist, the courage that it involves. We have seen that many have paid with their lives for such courage and sacrifice, but that is the right thing to do. And if it's the right thing to do, then our conscience is light and it serves the purpose. So thank you, Marcus, for your support. And in you, I want to thank you to dozens and dozens of young journalists who I've been in touch with and feel inspired by. So let that flame burn high in the good sense of the word, and keep engaged, keep moving things forward, be safe, and around the corner, there is a 2022 full of amazing opportunities. Let's grasp them.
For sure. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management podcast. Good luck in the future with SIGA, and I'm proud, as I said, to be a partner with SIGA from here going forward.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual. And congratulations on the great show and for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Sports Management podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.